Hello and welcome to Jarviskjir, Mind Over Matter, Chapter 3, Session 2! It's starting to look like a hex code in here. Hello. We're here. For those that don't know, this is the continuing Mind Over Matter campaign connected to all the other Jarviskjir campaigns in the living world of Jarviskjir, where all these interconnected little things link together. And of course, by watching the other shows, you may learn a thing or two. It will help you along the way, especially with all the lore and stuff on the Discord recently. We are here as Ocean and Ashal keep exploring the Underrealm, heading towards the destroyed Ebamari hunting city of Rangafu after their exile from the Deep Dwarves. That's pretty much it, isn't it?
How far out are we from Rangafu at this point, give or take?
It's hard to tell, but you know where you're very close to? Ebamaro.
Yeah.
Where we rejoin you to is right outside of it, basically.
It's hard to tell because we don't know how far the devastation around Rangafu extends, yes.
I've just realised, like, how you actually spell Rangafu.
Rangafu.
Because I've heard it 3 ways now. I've had, like, Rangafu.
Yeah. Well, I think when I first pronounced it, I'd only seen it on the map, and I hadn't heard Ollie pronounce it yet, so I wasn't sure what the intention was. But
don't trust me pronouncing anything, especially with that many F's and TH's in it.
Yeah, I only remember Rangafu rather than Fur.
That's such an English thing to do, where we just like end with a like, tomorrow.
Yeah, it is, but you know, you're not meant to say it.
Because the last thing that happened was they investigated that thing from
you
the fell.
Saw 2 hazmat Ebamari investigating a thing, and it was some kind of fell, almost like a life pod, that had come from the fell plane of Uhaga. That was pretty much the last thing you did, and then you kept on sneaking past it, I believe. Further away, unless you want to do more investigating or tinkering. This will be you guys heading on forward.
Ocean, if you wish to... I know we have discussed this, but this is the last bastion of civilization before we reach our destination. If you wish to turn aside, now is the time. You can see Ebamaro over there in the distance.
Did you want to stock up on potions?
No, as soon as we enter that city, the song will know of our presence and it will get feedback to Ochua. I do not think we are in any danger from the Ebamari, as we might be from the dwarves, but...
It makes you uncomfortable. And
yes.
Also we are kind of on the run.
And I do not want to know what how Ochua would respond to our spurning her request to check the Cult of the Undersun, although I had intended to look into that anyway, but that fell by the wayside. We have spurned her request and lost one of her allies. Even if she is not actively against us, I think we will find our reception a lot chillier than we perhaps otherwise would have done.
Onward. In that case, I don't like that pod thing. It gives me the creeps.
It is a worrying sign.
Do you feel like it's looking at you?
No.
Are you sure? Just the vibe?
No, I do not.
Are you sure?
I am very sure.
The baby is looking
Yes.
at a shawl.
Baby always looks at a shawl.
Uh,
If any of your tentacles get anywhere near it, there will be like a grass.
as Charlotte is deliberately floating several feet away. Did I explain what little I know of Rangerfurth?
I believe that you said it was a great community that was bombed out in some kind of attack by the golden
I think
troglodyte.
I think you are confusing multiple stories there, Oshun.
I've kind of knitted them together.
Yes. The truth is that we do not fully know what happened to Rangerfurth. It was what my people might refer to as a hunting city. The people there were of a more aggressive mindset than those in Ebimaro. They were more proactive in their feeding. They would take individuals from the surface. They would have quite happily been a part of the surface invasion that Lafura wished for. Whereas obviously Oldshore and Ebimara are more hesitant.
Well, I had no idea about that.
In truth, we do not know what happened to the city, only that it was obliterated, destroyed. There are some, and none of my people know. There are wanderers, vagabonds like myself, some who believe that it was an act of retaliation from the surface, which seems reasonable if concerning. Others that it was simply they delved into things that they should not and triggered a reaction. In truth, I do not know what we will find there, only that I believe, a place of such rapid and large-scale death will have weakened the boundaries with Uhaga. We may well find creatures there from Uhaga. We may also find creatures from Uhaga or the locale around Rangerfurth have been twisted by the death of so many psionically empowered individuals. The death of an entire song might have mutated beings there beyond recognition. It is likely full of aberrations and wandering spirits now.
I have a question. If all Ebimari are connected telepathically, how is it that everyone does not know of?
It is not as simple as all of us being connected.
Not all black people know each other.
How do I explain this best? A song is created by a single Ebimari, and it has a range.
When two Ebimari love each other very much.
When there are multiple Ebimari in an area, it becomes a greater, but becomes a whole if their songs are linked, and it becomes the song. The range that such a song can cover expands exponentially with the more Ebimari that are part of it, but different villages, different towns will still have different songs. The people of Rangerfurth had a different song to the people of Ebimaro. They were our cousins more than our more than our brothers, to use. I believe those would be the accurate terms for your people.
Yes, that is accurate. That is in fact how reproduction works.
So, in truth, there are no Ebamari who hold on to that experience, but even if there was, even if there are Ebamari, and there might have been Ebamari outside the initial radius of death in Rangothurth, I would hazard a guess that it would quite quickly drive him insane. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that being linked telepathically to thousands upon thousands of beings who are obliterated, their death screams in your mind? That would break, I hazard to say it, anyone.
I can't imagine that. I can only imagine my empathy, like...
For you, I imagine
connecting
it would
with-
be even worse.
But I still, even though I feel like responsibility for all creatures, I am not aware of their every movement. I am not aware of every individual at once. And even people that I care about, they are distant. I cannot see or know what it is they're thinking or feeling. And even though it would feel as though part of me were dying, it would not actually be that way, I suppose.
To answer the question you are going to ask, I do not think it will have an effect on me. It is difficult to say. My own telepathy is, as you have experienced and seen, stunted and weak through long years of neglect and disuse. I was never part of the song. I am likely among the best suited of the Ebimari to venture forth there, and I do not think without actively trying I could connect to anything there anyway. Caution will be important, but it will likely not have any adverse effect on me as long as I do not unnecessarily open my mind.
Okay. I will not ask you to use telepathy.
That would probably be for the best.
Cup of tea?
It's very fortuitous that you were mentioning the song, because you are traveling right beside Ebamaro. Not in front of it, because it's kind of curved, it's in like a crescent of rock. You're on the other side of a rock formation, but buildings dig in, and there are storehouses and whatnot. So you are close enough to Ebamaro that the both of you, without telepathy, can hear the song. That's actually why I chose this backing track right now. The song of Ebamaro, of probably around 300,000 or so Ebamari, all in passive psionic communication, is palpable enough that it becomes audible in reality, outside of telepathy. So there is this sound, almost like running water or the humming of crystals, that you can
That one
hear.
asshole Kevin, it's like...
This is not in. This is so far away. You couldn't even sense any individuals in this, even if you were looking, because the song is not just everyone. There's also little communications inside it. It's like an internet, really. So if Kevin is being an asshole, Kevin could be an asshole on their own. But you can also.
Someone bangs on the wall next to Kevin. Stop sending those psionic messages.
You can also kind of see it. Just sort of. Almost as if you could imagine yourself seeing the flow of air. It's just more... It's almost like the air is more thick. You can see it moving, but you're not actually seeing the air. You're seeing the song Just the way
I've
it's...
seen a Windows screensaver.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I mean, that's showing your age a little bit. We don't have screensavers anymore. Did you know why screensavers existed, by the way? I didn't learn this until recently. They existed because old screens would have the burn-in. You would literally save your screen by having a moving backing image.
Oh my god!
It saved the screen!
I did not know
My
that, but it
brain!
makes perfect sense the second you say it.
Yes! That's why they were all like...
Yeah, well, they were all silly.
What were they like?
Is it the best
No,
one?
you could hear the
ones
song
where you-
amongst you.
The best ones were ones where you could like play a game on the screensaver.
The old Ultima-ish one.
Yeah. Like going through mazes and such like on the screensaver. Those are brilliant.
I would just stare at the swirl, just
Oh,
like ADHD fixation. I was like, you saying how beautiful this image is, carry on.
Yeah. No, but it's just, it's something you're aware of. The snowflakes in the air almost seem to dally slightly in the occasional places because it is
Baby's
still
leg.
very cold. Yeah, the baby can catch some snowflakes. And with their very warm skin, melts.
And then they do that thing where they don't know what to do with their
And then
hands,
he
they're just
starts crying!
like, no!
As Shao would
Why is it wet? Because it's a snowflake.
you can tell from Ashal's demeanor that with how close the song is, they are quite uncomfortable. Like the tentacles are
Full on exile hunch mode.
Yeah. And they would just say, we should hurry past, not risk the edges of the song detecting our presence.
Absolutely.
You can hurry.
Just because you don't want to be detected?
In this case, yes. Truth be told, I do not know what I feel about the song anymore. Part of the reason I responded to Ulchua's call and agreed to her quest in the first place was that I hoped to finally be part of a song. That is what my outcast status and everything I told you about my treatment can be summarized as. I was not part of the song. I never have been. And truth be told, now I do not know if I want to be part of the song. But it is hard to let go of something that not only have you lived your whole life wanting deep in your heart, but it is a part of our being. It would be like if you had no sense of taste. Yes, you could live without it, but it would be strange and uncomfortable for you, particularly when you were reminded of it.
Or if you grew up in a culture that made you an outcast for your abilities, and then you went to a cave and became even more strange.
I suppose so, yes.
I think I can see what you mean. It's always difficult with communities, though. By our nature, communities give us what we need to survive. But if that community is poison, then it will destroy you. It's an organism that is bigger than either of us. And yet, our deepest molecules crave to be part of it because we know that by ourselves we may not survive. But I think, as I told you about my experience before, that's where the best connections can come from. If you find people that are more like you than your own community, even though there may always be that gap where you crave that sort of base connection, you have everything that you want and you need with the people you choose to be part of your life.
And that is...
Oh, God!
A snowflake lands on one of Ashar's tentacles. It's like...
I was like, what the heck does an Ebamari sneeze look like? And it was not.
Well, it was gotta be horrible because they don't have noses, so it'd be like full larynx, like something's coming out, you know, like a starfish.
Ashar takes a moment to get on all fours in the snow and go,
like a cat.
Well, like, have you ever coughed up like a lump of mucus after a cold?
Oh my God!
No, but it must be, right? Yeah, I mean, by nature, Ebamari are mucusy
I know what
I
that's
was
like.
trying to be delicate about
That
it.
always
okay?
happens to me after a cold.
We're supposed to be delivering a soothing oral experience for people.
Soothing this campaign?
Oh my God.
Mine Ashar would...
You need to stop grooming yourself, Ashar.
Ashar would go quiet at that for a few moments. Yes. Yes, I'm
so sorry.
It's okay. It's my point for trying to continue when you're still. Yes, that is part of what has me questioning whether being part of a voice is something I even want anymore.
Not to ask an ignorant question about culture that I don't understand. Would you be assimilated in any way, like a droplet of water? Would your identity disperse into the identities of thousands of other people? Or would you retain your individuality?
The answer to that is complicated. It depends on the mental strength of the individual and on the length of time spent in contact with the soul. As you have seen, Old Jua is very definitely an individual and has remained that as head of the song, or its representative in some way. She is quite the non-traditional Ebamari.
She's got those Lady Gaga heels.
There are people in Ebimaro who will likely have forgotten much of their, or not forgotten much of their individuality. The proper phrasing would be that...
Acclimatized.
Yes, they are so much a part of the song that their identity is bound up with it, and their individuality is weak, if not non-existent. Theoretically, if you broke free from the song, they would still be individuals. But they might not know themselves, in a sense. It is a difficult concept, and it does, again, the terms do not really translate well into common.
What is how you say it in your language?
That is the term, I suppose, the phrase we would use
I thought
to
you meant
summarize
Ashna Skrimpagul. Ashna Shrigatu. That sounds very much like, unless I'm completely mistaken about the nature of the song, that sounds very much like interacting in any society. The people that you rub up against, parts of you transfer to them, some of their traits transfer to you.
That I have no doubt, but...
You slut.
I mean, it is actually very true for Oshun. Each chapter, there's been a bang quest that has been a little story arc for Oshun, and Oshun has grown for it.
To be the bang sub.
I don't know who Oshun is gonna bang in the City of the Damned. Which tentacle monster? I don't know.
My own ignorance of other people's is apparent as well, but even as a person is influenced by those around them, they retain a core self, their identity as an individual, even if their personality and their taste change around it. Within the song, that identity itself can be subsumed to a degree. It is not eradicated, but it can be weakened and become lesser. It is a much more... What can happen with the song rather than any other community is a much more... I would imagine that if you took the brain of an Ebimari like myself and compared it to the brain of one who had lived their entire life in the song, particularly one of weak will.
They have a smooth brain.
Yes, there would be aspects of the brains that would be very, very different. Some of theirs would be underdeveloped, whereas some of mine would be underdeveloped.
It's because you're so swole compared to the other Ebimari. You've got like.
Yes, I've got my -2 strength mods.
Just imagine.
Comparatively, it's okay.
I love the idea of you going into Ebimaro and just flexing, and they're like, oh, like there's a tiny like pea.
The fun thing is, Ashal could even do that experiment partially. You do have
I have
chunks of brain.
Yeah.
Oh, do you wanna?
Not really.
You're on the road.
Not at the moment. As Shal was lining up the dissection of the Radiant Abimari brain for when they had a laboratory. They don't really have a laboratory now.
You've got a forest. What else do you need?
No,
I don't.
But yes, that would be that's how I should explain it.
Do you feel that your mind is strong enough?
To do what?
To withstand long-term or enough exposure to the song. Do you want to try? Just paint his
paint lips on the tentacles.
Lip shape.
I have spent long enough separated from the song that I would maintain myself, possibly for the rest of my natural lifespan. I do, but
Well, maybe we can try it after we look at this city. We can't hide from Altsha forever.
There's a landmine. With any sentence with Ulksha in it, there's a big old landmine that you got to get over with your punctuation. So that one's on me.
Ashal would go silent for quite a bit over. I will consider it. It will depend on the outcome of Rangarfurth. Depends what knowledge we gain. If we have things that can be brought back to Ebimaro, knowledge, that might be sufficient. And realistically, to face down the Fura, I doubt we will be able to do it on our own. But if we wanted to face down the Fura, we might be able to seek out other allies. You mentioned the surface. There is another possibility that crossed my mind.
We definitely could not reach the surface through the city if what you say, they will remember anyone coming up and stealing people.
I was simply going to say, we originally started out so many seasons ago, we started out as diplomats, trying to bring more peoples to the Treaty of the Deep. If we wanted to bring people together against Okshua, why not try some of those who are not a member of the treaty?
You would look very much like someone who would steal babies to a surface dweller.
Oh, I do not mean surface dwellers.
Ah.
I mean the Darklings, Gromniak do not have a unified society. There are many peoples in these realms that we met for Mushroom Elves. There are many peoples who are not represented in the treaty, who might be concerned for what Lefura plans. That is a future concern.
Yes. Let us focus on what we can do.
Yes. Let us walk into what is...
Don't call it the mouth of hell.
No, but it potentially is.
Oh!
It might be the largest manifestation zone for Haga in existence.
I love the idea of Ocean doing exactly what Zoe's doing now, where it's just like, you say that and it's meant to be really like heavy, and Ocean's just like,
we're fucked. Literally just what I was thinking. I was just like, we're fucked. Ah.
You can keep on walking.
What if my baby becomes a glug blood baby?
Well, Ashal has given you plenty of opportunities to turn aside.
Yep, at this
I know
point,
you wouldn't, but...
I'm gonna leave you. Just be like, bye.
It would be quite funny if, like, 2 sessions into this new chapter, Ocean's just like, bye.
You know what?
Just
I
like,
changed my mind.
Yeah. Whatever happened to that Ebimari, the one who was really, really like vividly purple? Oh yeah, they just got torn apart by random tentacles that burst through the air. Like...
Speaking of, roll initiative. No.
Ah!
I'm
Are you
kidding
serious?
for
No.
now.
Oh,
I
you
hope
bastard.
he's not serious.
But you do keep walking for a little while. You do get past Ebimaro. Go through the little areas where it's almost a little jungly. Ashar would know there are some theories that the actual psionic presence of the song most encourages plant growth. And so there is this area that you're traveling through close to it is kind of a jungle. Not so much. Maybe Oshun is in front with the knife doing some macheteing, but not.
Does Ashal do that thing where, like in the like almost in like sort of the trees they're alive sort of thing?
Well, some people would think that's true. Yeah.
Exactly. I was going to say that's got to be a theory if it's based on the song.
Just imagining a shot like every tree, every plant has a name. Have you ever seen the flood?
You get out of that bit.
I should be like, she would be like, do you want to have a little song? Do you want to have a little sing to the plants, Ashal?
Ashal just looks at you very strangely.
Is that what they do? They like, no, okay.
You are
gravely mistaken.
You are interpreting the song as something far more physical than it is, I think.
Okay.
You keep on moving. That area leaves. Behind you are the farms of Ebamaro, where lovely, delicious, free-range humans are grown.
They just do that. They're just like.
Nay!
I was just imagining some like business guy on his weekend doing laps.
Yes, hello. Yes, they're all salarymen. Yeah, that's what humans wear. So that's what the Ebamaro have given them.
Where have the Ebamaro got this idea from? It's another matter.
I've heard stories.
The song is so powerful it is picking up TV from another realm.
Hey! Don't be reading my notes.
There's just one guy who just keeps going, could I be any more delicious? Could I be any more delicious? Just over and over and over.
You,
Oh my god. I am the writer for Schism. What I say is canon.
That's not true.
It is true.
It's like half canon.
Oh my god, my face hurts.
You go past that area to the point where you actually rejoin a road. You've actually taken this road once before at the very start of this campaign at Ultra's behest.
Is that guy still there? He just wanted a startup.
This is not that road. You have no idea how Bryce is. I'm impressed I remember that name without looking it up. You have no idea how Bryce is. You gave him some money and it was kind of like, oh, you could keep coming back to Bryce. You'd have like a little home-based tavern where you're supporting him. No, you've never come back. Not the once.
To be fair,
other things have been more important.
Yeah, we came across a project to genocide the Spiderkin and summon an Uncle
Yes,
Link.
yes. And they were successful.
Yeah.
One day we'll see Bryce. They just have an aside where she's just like, hey Ashal, do you think we'll ever lay eyes on our good friend Bryce ever again?
Well, no. What happens like after if we survive the end of the campaign, defeat LaFleur and everything, then the epilogue is us returning to Bryce and helping them build the cabin.
And then we just retire and don't do anything ever again except stare into the fire.
But something that may be of interest to Oshun is there is a three-way fork in the road. One leads to Ebamaro, one leads the way you came, and one would lead to Rangafuth. Noticeably, that road is on that direction. You can see it getting like crusted over with mycelial growth and rock falls and stuff, and you can like look behind you and see, you know, the jungle. You can look to Ebamaro and see the blue lights in the distance. You look to Rangafuth and see nothing. But you do see a shrine on the corner of this point, which is where you met Drea.
Oh, I'm getting nostalgic for a game that's just...
It has been like a year and a half in universe though. So...
Not in real life.
No. Well...
I mean, it's
been a long time.
Been a while.
It's been over a year, I think.
Been a while. Yes. So there is this shrine. It is of kind of an indeterminate design, honestly. But when you were passing this corner, Drea was here slaying some kind of undead. Because Drea, your girlfriend, Drea Mori, is very interested in the dead. Like a lot of lesbians are. So just another a neat little thing. I don't know if that makes you want to.
It's so empty now without the sounds of hacking dead flesh.
No, you just have hawking dead flesh in a shawl, like.
Oh god!
I
brings out a little handkerchief.
I did mention this at the end of last session, I think, after we ended the episode, but you do have sending, Oshun. And you're not really casting your spells on anything while you're traveling, other than maybe, like, doing a little bit of magic to help them, like, camp and shit. So, and maybe casting Cure Wounds on your feet at the end of the day. If you wanted to contact past NPCs, this is possible. You are very far away. It's unlikely that you'll be able to maybe get help, but it is an option if you want that expertise, you want that questioning, or just a little chat.
I think if Ocean saw the shrine, she would remember. What's her name?
Drea.
Drea. It's a dyslexic thing, not a lesbian thing, okay?
I don't remember which of my girlfriends this is.
I think that's an Oshun thing.
Yeah, Oshun will say, do you think if we pray at this shrine, then... What's her name?
Drea.
Drea? I'm gonna write it down, okay?
Yeah!
Not want to hold on to it.
Do a little circle around it, some little hearts, little scythe.
No, it's just gonna be a little tiny cartoon face with her going like.
Yeah, that's her only face.
Yeah. Do you think Drea would arrive?
No. Because if you pray to a shrine, you're praying to a god, and I do not think Drea is a god.
I thought you were going to say if you pray at a shrine, you'll pray at an empty vessel filled with nothing but sound and fury.
Ashal is speaking to a cleric and may soften some of their words.
I think Oshun would pray at it and then say, like, point out, do you remember that this is actually where we saw Drea for the first time?
Yes, I remember.
Do you think she's busy?
I imagine that she is at her house
Really?
with Tumulus, assuming that Tumulus has held together this long.
Oh, don't say that. I always imagined Tumulus well. Well,
I do not think Tumulus was ever well, but...
do you think do we need an extra pair of hands?
I do not know where the House of Mori lies, but I imagine it is well within the lands of your people. For her to travel here would take months, I would guess. Her presence might be reassuring, but we have already spent far too long traveling from the dwarf lands down to here. That is time that Lefura has gained on us.
It's true.
And we did not have much spare time to begin with.
Would she have access to drink your tea? Would she have access to a spell of transportation? An Uber?
It is not impossible, but I honestly, you are more likely to know than I whether a house of the usurper elves would have access to that kind of magic. I imagine the type of magic that Lefura used that was so specific, I think is probably the exception rather than the rule, even if it does exist. I imagine if there is such teleportation magic, it would probably direct someone to Ebimaro, say, rather than this specific spot.
How about, okay. I wonder if we can be semi-incognito. We take a look, if we can. We survey the situation. And then if it seems like we absolutely need muscle to survive, we're fragile, literal babies, then I can communicate with someone who could help us.
I have no intention of getting killed meaninglessly in there. The time waste would not be beneficial, but
If she can get here quickly, all the better.
But it is preferable for us to come out with answers than to not come out at all, even if it is delayed. We will have to see what we find there. I might be wrong. There might not be any aberrations or creatures of Uhaga there.
Something tells me that there will be.
Yes. If you wish to communicate with her, see what she is currently doing, see if she is able to make her way here. We still have quite some time before we get to Rangerfooth itself. If she were to gain a couple of weeks of travel while we were traveling there, if we did have to wait. But this is all contingent on her being able and willing to make such a trip. She might not be willing to.
Yeah.
You
Good
would
plan.
need to communicate with her first, one way or another.
I send out
Cast
links.
the spell sending allows you to send a message of 25 words or less. So, I'm sure Ian will help you count your words in a message to Drea. Remember, once you start, we all know how sending works. Don't worry about it. Once you start, any fucks, they're all they're all canon and they count. So, get ready.
Stop menacing me. So I don't want to be like Drea. Give her.
It is one of those things that you are actually
in your brain.
It's not telepathy. The way sending works is almost as if you are said, like the message almost moves through reality, but just very quickly. Maybe you've been influenced by Ashal's telepathy, but every character casts it differently. When Yulia used to cast it, Ian's old witch, it would be like a whisper you hear on the wind.
What?
And when Cinnabelle and you have cast it before, it is kind of like a quiet conversation. It's not abrupt or sharp. I don't think it would be scary.
Kind of like well-polished, aloof lesbians at the back of your dinner party with their glasses of wine whispering to each other kind of vibe.
Yes, that is it. That is what it says on my notes for Cinnabelle. That is exactly the guide note. But this is Drea. But that's like it won't be shocking. Is the thing. It might be unexpected, but it's not like bleh! Although we should have a character someday who does cast sending and we're like, yeah at the start.
It feels particularly like cool slime. You must remember that's how it feels like. Okie dokie. So what are the points that we want to make? Drea? God, there's so much.
You
I
can
think-
cast this twice per day, I believe. Andrea can then reply.
It's a
3
it's a
times?
third level spell. It's a third level spell. You have at least 3 times. You might even have 4 now. I think.
I think 3. I don't think you have 4. I don't know. We'll see.
4 would be crazy.
Oh, you got 3. Yeah.
But you can cast it 3 times, and she can reply each time. So you can send multiple emails.
So basically, we want to know where she is and what she's currently doing, at least roughly.
You up?
Then we want to say, we are heading to Rangerfurth. Are you willing to accompany us?
Yeah.
That's basically it. You can do that in 2 sendings if you want, but realistically, you might be able to fit that in 1.
Shit's gone down. The fellowship is breaking.
I mean, good way to do
If
it.
she's in Narashiro, then we don't know
Well,
where the
She
news
doesn't
is.
live in Narashiro City. When you left her, she actually traveled further north. Because she's at her samurai house, the House of Mori. And that's where she took Tumulus.
Okay.
And a lot of the samurai houses aren't in the city. There are definitely street samurais. But they're mostly like the House of Nor, which you nearly went to, is somewhere far in the forests against a wall and a cliff. They are places of seclusion. So actually she's further away than Narashiro.
So I don't think we shouldn't mention that there's just the 2 of us. Okay. I'm beginning. Press record. Drea. There's just 2 of us now. Ashal and I are heading into Rangerfurth.
Got 11 words left.
Go what you got to. Would appreciate assistance if available.
Send?
19 words.
This every time you cast sending, Zoe, you're like, I don't, and then you go under the limit every time.
Yeah, I would expect to exceed it.
There is very little delay because Andrea is knowledgeable enough about these things to know to reply. Sometimes it's just someone's stream of consciousness, but like Cinnabelle, Drea, people like that, they know. And you also feel if the spell connects, basically, as well. You get like red messages, read at 9 p.m. But it would be
let me read.
Long have I desired to explore that accursed place.
Oshun cries because she thought she was going to say to hear from her.
If you have need of my knowledge and martial might, my steed is fast and yours. 25.
She says her steed is fast. Also, she didn't say that she missed me, but...
It would be reassuring to have a blade between us and any aberrations. Neither of us are exactly frontline fighters.
And I still have to wrap my mind around whether these are conscious beings or not. I'll look at it. If I feel sad, then they're going to be tortured, aren't they?
Realistically, Ollie, even with like a very quick steed, how long is someone going to take to get from Narashiro to where we are, basically.
You have done a similar journey in around 2 months using a beetle. Let's assume that Drea has something faster than a beetle. I don't believe you've seen her steed before, but
Nope.
she...
Let it be a big caterpillar.
More likely a big spider.
That's insulting.
I mean, there are like big spiders that are used as mounts.
I don't
We
like
like
to look at them.
You look at them and then you see your face looking back. It's weird.
I wonder if it's like seeing monkeys when they are our like closest evolutionary relatives. Also, something I heard recently that was really interesting is that there are no lesser evolved creatures. Monkeys are not lesser evolved.
It's just different.
It's a different path.
Exactly. I never, because it's always.
It's also just the same point of things like Neanderthals. All the other proto-humans were basically just humans at the same time. And then we fucked them into extinction.
Well, or did we? Sapiens posits the theory that it's possible some other kinds of human survived.
There's the halflings that survived on like an island.
Yep.
There's very specific cases of some other connected races surviving. Yeah, I mean, if she had a fast speed, maybe she could half that time to a month. If she has an even faster steed, which would be something very magical, which might be possible, maybe half that time again. So
depends how much she misses me.
I suppose so we're realistically, we're estimating a month then.
We're still on our way.
I suppose the next question is, what are we going to do in that downtime? Because potentially we're going to, because it's not.
I don't think you want to take downtime. I think you just want to know that you have cavalry coming. It's probably the more wise idea.
Yes.
And maybe take some time to investigate without delving too deep.
Yes, that's probably a good shout, to be honest.
That's probably safe.
Yeah, that makes most sense. And I mean, it will take some time for us to get to Rangafuth yet, that she will be gaining on us. So,
Rangafuth.
I think as Charles would like all of this processing for a little bit in as Charles' head, and then we'll say,
do you want to do telepathy before you can't anymore? Save your throat is what I'm saying.
It's fine.
Okay.
If I really need to, I will stop.
You could just Ian could stop at any time.
I could. Yeah.
Can't stop, won't stop.
I am dedicated to my character.
Dedicated to my craft.
As Charles will say, if she has that much interest and is willing, I believe it would be best to call her. We can follow the path to Rangafuth.
Oh, I already did it.
I confirm with her that we wish her to come. We will follow the path to Rangafuth and begin preliminary investigations on the edges of the city and await her there.
Ocean sent another message. Yes, please come.
It's specified that we'll be following the path to Rangafuth.
I drop a Google Maps location.
Yeah, you will get a suitably dour confirmation of the message. So, assumingly, she'll be on the way.
Just fighting them back.
And this is a great chance for us to take a little break before you wander closer.
I'm better than I sound, actually.
I want the break. I don't care about you. I want the break.
I still want to break. It's just that Zoe's saying about honey water. I'm actually a lot better than I sound.
You know, Zoe is spouse. Zoe is meant to care. I am not spouse yet, and so I don't care. We'll be back in 5 minutes or so.
just turned the closed captions back on, so they got the closed captions, got that one.
Hey, alrighty. You've just sent a message to Drea, your samurai of death, and can continue towards the city of death.
Snap, 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 snaps. You need snaps.
I can't snap click.
Aw.
I can, but it'll break my achy breaky bones.
No.
I can click my wrist.
No, God, please, no.
Question for whoever is leading the party of Ashar, Oshun, and Baby.
Probably
I was gonna say.
I mentioned
You're not even
that
taking footsteps.
there is
So-
the remnants of an old road to Rangafuth. Do you take it, or do you travel the wilds?
I think Ashal would stay parallel to the road. They're not particularly worried about, because no one's going to be traveling to Rangafuth.
It's not really a
So they're
road anymore, right? It's just there's the trail where the road was.
But even then, Ashal's paranoia would make them not actually take the road. They would keep it they would stay parallel to it and keep it just about within sight, just to keep track of where they are.
That's okay. We're just going to go into the forest and encounter the creature from the ritual.
It's okay. There's no more forest. Just stone. The lands you're traveling through barely even have much in the way of fungal growths. It's just cave stone. In some places, kind of naturally formed by dripping water from above or below into kind of blobby shapes, and other places just flat-ish plains of stone. Sometimes clearly have been disrooted by large worms or something, but even before you get Rangafuth in sight, there's a lot less life. What is very subtle. The mycelial layer that is on a lot of the Underrealm's floor doesn't almost... In other places, it almost becomes grass. Here, it's just a creeping, gripping, dark stuff that kind of squishes underfoot. Very much... In fact, right now, it would crunch underfoot because it'd be so cold. And there's not even all that much snow as you're traveling. You're very near the end of the cold season. It's really just cold and chilly. As you're traveling beside the road, but a little ways away, sometimes trying to use boulders or anything to kind of hide you from the road, you do see a strange thing on the road. It looks like a bridge. A stone bridge that has... It's not a bridge built on the road to travel. On the road is a fallen bridge. There's nowhere above it that it would have fallen from. It's just like this stone, and it looks like it has smashed the ground because some of the bricks are and it doesn't entirely look like something that Ebamari would make. They don't make things out of stone bricks, but these are kind of like old school medieval stone bricks, they're ever so slightly rounded just because of imperfectness of design. But other than that, it kind of resembles a traditional, slightly arched road bridge. It's on its side, smashed against the ground.
Is this one of the things you were saying could come through from...
Uhaga.
That's what I said.
Difficult to say. I do not truly know how the planes would interact on a large scale with a large enough manifestation zone. With a large enough slip space, it is not impossible. That does not look of Ebimari make. And the only other possibility I can think of is that it somehow fell from the surface, which seems even less likely. It would be a wise assumption that it somehow came through the manifestation zone, assuming it is what it seems to be.
Oh. Do you think it could be what we encountered when we first met? the well? Do you want to go poke it?
It's.
Go,
I will.
baby, investigate.
I will not.
No.
I would not rule anything out in an area so unknown and so seeped in fell magic. The question is if it worth the risk of investigation? I suppose, given how far out we are from the city and the fact that we will be waiting on Drea to go deeper into the city, we may as well, once we have confirmed its safety, have a look.
Tough luck if we die before we even get to the city, though.
I imagine that if Drea follows the path, she would happen upon it anyway.
I wonder if I can detect good and evil, right? If you wanted to investigate it.
That would be an option. We will have to get closer to it, I believe. I was going to simply cast a spell on it and see if it reacted. But that
Well.
also works.
There you go. Detect good and evil.
Question is, what's its range?
I think it's 60 foot, but yeah, if you click it.
You know, you can get 60 foot within the.
Oh, 30, drag.
30 foot is you're gonna be walking right up on that road, looking at the thing. But you
Well, I
can.
think there was-
You can see very far. Other than bats, there's not really anything living here.
I think Azshal would at least get to within 60 foot and then throw an acid splash. Like, technically, Azshal's acid splash is psionic anyway, so it's not really like a flung thing, but it at least gives us a little bit more warning if this is not a bridge.
You launch a psionic blast of magic that mimics acid, and it crashes into the kind of wall of this fallen bridge, and the bricks go in that place when you knock some of the bricks away.
Wait. It's psionic.
Yes, but the mental can affect the physical if used with enough. So, we do not have time to get into the magical theory.
You just saw it with the song.
Your spell would be appreciated when we get within 30 foot, but I would imagine that this is
Well, you
probably
can't
what
be
it seems to be.
too careful.
Exactly.
Now that we're in this realm.
Exactly. So yeah.
You want to
we
walk
get
up and
within
cast
30
detect
feet,
good and evil?
Yeah.
Okay. Chalk down a spell slot.
Which
You
is undead.
reach out your senses to otherworldly beings, being partly otherworldly yourself, and you sense no beings. What you do sense is that this bridge was from a land of shadow and death. You can almost see it lingering on the bricks, between the bricks particularly.
Yup. It's from the bad place.
How big, like, are we talking about this bridge? Is this a footbridge? Is this a...
It would have been wide enough for two people to walk side by side abreast, regular size humanoids, over a 25-foot range. And now it's here on its side,
Not
semi-collapse.
Not the worst.
It's not the Golden State Bridge.
No, it's not.
It's not like a giant. It's not like they blew it up. Damn you all to hell. No, it's small. It's just weird and big enough to be very noticeable.
Well, this confirms that there has been some...
This confirms that we should be vigilant to things that can drop from with enough force from high enough above us to break several layers of brick.
If I had to hypothesize, I imagine this was probably brought through at the moment that at the initial moment of whatever happened in Rangerford.
You know.
It is unlikely that something would come through something unmoving would come through a manifestation zone after its inception. Manifestation zones are fundamentally overlaps in the planes that bleed into each other. This was probably in an equivalent place in Uhaga when the manifestation zone was created.
So those people those Ebamari who were investigating, could that have appeared very, very recently? Or would it have appeared at the moment of the disaster?
Based on the fact that they were investigating it now, and that I believe, unless I'm mistaken, they squished whatever that thing was left in the cage, I would hypothesize that was a more recent thing. Also, if it was something fleeing Uhaga or moving away from Uhaga, then it is reasonable that it came under its own propulsion.
Just imagine something fleeing with just this little black slug like the one from Spirited Away, and it's just like...
Based on the splatter you saw, it probably was something very similar to that.
Oh, he just wanted to be free. Free to destroy.
Yeah, they're cute now, but when they grow up...
Whatever was in that cage, pod, whatever it was, had some means of propulsion, of moving itself. A bridge does not have that.
Ah, I see. I had assumed that this could happen at any point because we saw those people so recently.
There are many unknowns. We are potentially dealing with a larger manifestation zone, a larger bleeding through another plane, greater than any I have read about. I would not particularly, we might be dealing with one that continues to feed and grow. There are too many unknowns. If potentially we have no idea how the song of Rangerford would interact with a manifestation zone. It could be that the power of the psionic energy would be enough to sustain itself in some way and attempt to remain and to feed itself and grow. In which case the manifestation zone could grow and bring more things through. There are far too many unknowns, and I am making wild hypotheses.
You know, we could turn around for your sake, Ashal. We could go try and find more about time manipulation. We could go to Ragnarok. Ebamari. That's the one. Ebamaro.
This has to be done. I feel this is the best way of getting answers about Lefura obtaining power.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if there was a big stick at the center of this city? We take the stick, and if we just whack her with it, she just goes...
Stranger things have happened.
All right, I'm resolved to find this stick.
In summary, I would be on your guard, but I would be very surprised if something like this were to appear in the air above us. I'll put it that way.
All right. Thank you for reassuring me. You hear that, little baby? We're not gonna get squished. Maybe.
You can keep on walking. This takes multiple days. You will have recovered your spell slots. Pretty much the next day, traveling this road, a little off to the side, but again, it's very flat, you see a stall set up on the north side of the road.
Is this a lemonade stand?
It looks like a lemonade stand. It has a bit of an awning, which has some snow and icicles on it, and the stall has some baskets and some little things. There is no old man time wizard there, but a 4-foot-tall moth.
It's a Mothman.
It is a Mothman. Wings fluttering. They are flying a little bit above the ground. They are not a humanoid moth. They are very much a moth that is like right side up. They do have vaguely humanoid arms and legs, and only one set of arms, one set of legs. But they're very thin. They're very thin and spindly limbs, almost like tree branches. And the face is just moth. Which, to be fair, some big moths are very cute looking. This is kind of up to you. And the wings are actually kind of colorful, but also they're like colorful shades of grays and pinkish tones.
I was imagining this moth that felters like to make, the really fluffy moth.
Yeah, it's not.
It's got really long, thin arms.
And it doesn't touch the legs don't touch the ground because of its flying in place. So they just kind of dangle. And it's not that fluffy, but it's a little fluffy.
Yeah, I take it from the fact that you've described this and not given us a name, that if this is an underrealm species, it's not one we know.
Y'all can give me history checks.
What's my history like?
Well, my history's decent.
There are, according to Alkshua's theories, there are so many sentient races in the Underrealm hitherto yet unknown. And that's not even including ones that you do know but aren't necessarily unionized yet. Do you want to give us a roll as well, Ocean? Because we know Ashal knows, clearly.
I got distracted from what I was doing. Oh, 0 in history.
Oh, reroll.
Reroll without advantage.
Remembered from last session.
Yeah, it does. Okay.
Ocean didn't go to school. She went to a cave.
Now, being an exile who, the caves you are in are like this one, where the caves are countries, you will know of Mothkin. They are a sentient race of moths, basically. They have a particular practice where a lot of them become traders. They're not allowed everywhere, but they're often on the outskirts of towns with their wares, which aren't usually the most amazing things in the world, but they have things. There are also ones that become wizards and crafters and clerics and all that. They basically kind of like choose a profession, and then they work on it for their short lives. They don't live super long in their adult form. They, in fact, looking carefully, there is one in their cocoon form as well at that stall. They start as a grub, and then they become a cocoon. The cocoon has little legs, so it's standing there, and it's basically a big kind of conical shape of like layered wax and silk with 2 big eyes on the side. And it's just kind of like...
You've just made something right out of the French animation period at its weirdest. Like just a cone with legs.
Yeah.
Freaking me out.
It from a distance, the cocoon form almost looks like someone in like a prayer shawl, like huddled up, like a traveling priest on a pilgrimage, which is why they're often called pilgrims, because the cocoon forms wander a long way trying to learn and trying to work out what they want to do with life, because they don't live long. Something Ashal might maybe even be interested in is they live like 25 years, all of their forms combined, maybe less, maybe more. So
Ollie blowing my mind with lore.
I think, like, seeing the look... Well, I think I assume that Oshun has a look of confusion on her face.
Oshun's just like, wow, you're selling a scarf. Is that legs?
I think Ashal would be very confused upon seeing this stall, but would like... It is probably safe. albeit strange. Can you use that spell of yours again, just in
Yes.
case? Detect good and evil.
That will involve walking up to the stall.
Yeah. But I'd rather be 30 foot away when we discover this thing's going to try and eat us than next to it.
And just like throw a spell in their face, like, yeah.
Well, the nice thing about detect good and evil is you kind of just pray to yourself, which doesn't look entirely out of place.
Good. Not throwing glitter in someone's face.
I actually need to check something.
Oh god, are they evil?
Well, they might be something that's not what we're looking. They might be something that triggers the spell, but isn't necessarily a bad thing.
I think Oshun's gonna feel just the slightest compulsion to like cocoon this moth and drain its fluids.
Yeah, it does. Honestly, when you were down in the caves, like becoming Oshun, you may have eaten one of these without realizing that they are sapient.
Oh shit.
They are. You get the kind of glimmer of Fae. Something that you actually... Oshun doesn't know much about the Fae, so when it comes through your senses... Oh shit, there's dice. When it comes through your senses, it's not like the oppressive darkness of the Shadow Realm, or the lightness of divinity, or in the case of Ivrith, you know, very different kind of divinity. There is just kind of this inner shifting spark about these two creatures. And actually, I don't think you speak Sylvan, Ashal, but you would recognize... On the sign, there is like, it's in Undercommon, but also there are symbols which look like a child's doodles until you realize that they're Sylvan hieroglyphs on the sign, which always look like, no matter how well you calligraph them, they look like just a kid drawing symbols because that's just how Sylvan is. Yeah, you would get this. I don't think Oshun has encountered a Fae before, other than that mushroom spirit thing that turned Ashal to stone, which it wasn't even Fae, but it was very similar. This is like Fae that have existed on the mortal plane for a long time, and even then they might not necessarily even be Fae, but a similar being.
It feels like sherbet in my brain. I don't...
So not the same feeling as a being of Urhaga then. Well,
you also sense little tiny fireworks of darkness on the table on one side.
They have things that they may have scavenged from the place that we're going. Rangerford.
At this point, Ashal will float towards the stall.
They will, the Mothkin's antennae will twitch.
Greetings. This is an unusual place to set up a stall. From what I know, further down this road, there is nothing but destruction.
I suppose that would depend on your interpretation of road. At the end of roads would be destruction for many things. What matters is that I have goods for sale. We have pemmican of the finest aether-touched berries. And he will run his little hands over this wicker basket. Very nice wicker basket that has little pemmicans in them. Pemmican being a type of food that is made of meat and berries and like oats. It's a survival ration. But the berries that you can see, they kind of have a blue-pink shimmer shine. And it's like, and trinkets, baubles of interest to all. Especially a wizard. The antennae kind of...
He can taste you with his fronds.
The amusing thing is he's wrong. I'm not.
Yes!
One thing I'm not.
I have approximate knowledge of many things.
Some of these
baubles, were they, and I make no judgment on this, were they located further down this road?
Mostly further to the north. You strike me as a pair who are interested in investigating that blasted place, but we do avoid it ourselves. But the cavern floors around, they do have some things touched by that dark that are not completely seeped within it. And he will actually tap the table very weakly, because it's very weak limbs, but the stones on the table, there's two different types. Some which honestly look just like pebbles, like smooth pebbles, and then other ones which kind of look like slithers of a pinkish glass. And the ones that look like pebbles, as he taps the table, will like jump, and they'll like turn completely pitch black with a silver sheen, and then kind of go back to normal by the time they land. And they jump like an inch, like a jumping bean or something.
Is the baby at all interested?
Something just moved in front of the baby's face. The baby is interested.
Do you want any of the things? These are little hand.
It's the baby. I know. This is you doing it. This is Ocean holding the baby's hands. I've learned this. Yeah.
How much are you asking for your wares?
These foodstuffs are for 5 silver, a bar with these, a silver piece for each.
It's not got like sharp edges or anything. You said that it's a piece of glass.
The pinkish glass is pretty sharp. The stones are smooth.
Directing the hands away.
The stones are pretty smooth. Sometimes they have they've clearly been broken in half from a bigger stone. So they have like kind of an angle to them, but the shards of glass, they really do look like shards of glass or crystal, like shaved off a bigger crystal or smashed.
Is that
So,
like, is it bigger than the baby's mouth?
the little stones? No, they would fit perfectly inside that baby's mouth. They're going in that baby's mouth if you give them one. They also do appear to shimmer with darkness. So maybe not.
Like the darkness.
Did this guy describe?
He didn't describe what the stones really were, or the crystals.
No, but the glass. Did he? I feel like he mentioned aether.
He mentioned the berries were aether touched.
Ah, that's what I was remembering. Fair enough.
Ration could be interesting.
You need rations anyway. 2 of the berry and meat items.
They'll be handed over. The hands are a little dusty.
Thank you.
And here is a gold. I will take a bunch of these stones and glass.
I'll take the gold and kind of click it between the mandibles. And then we'll put it like under the table. Very well, very wise, very interesting.
You mentioned that you found these north of here, that you came from the north of here. Do your people have a community to the north of the blasted city?
We have a breeding ground and a birthing ground.
Great.
I take it that you are not the type of people to have a permanent settlement then, at least not for permanent houses.
Not a town with bakers and home stuffs. No, we wander and set up where is necessary. I am hoping that my son here can become an apprentice in a good stall or shop or something of the sort.
All he does is play video games.
The last thing I would want him to be is to hatch limp-winged.
These shavings of glass, are they scavenged in the same places as the stones?
Yes, but further up. Our people can clamber these walls without much difficulty, even before we have our wings. That was shaved off by some of our grubs from the Aether stars above.
Have you noticed any particular places that we might want to avoid? Or places that we might want to investigate?
I can already tell you are traveling to the very place everyone should want to avoid, in which case you have some kind of danger wish, and I wouldn't want to wish to get in the way of that.
Not for danger, simply for knowledge. But knowledge frequently comes embedded in places of danger, it seems.
Not for us, no. We will gain knowledge in undangerous places whenever possible, yes.
We go to the library.
I will not be stopping you.
I noticed that you have insect body, humanoid arms. I have humanoid body and insectoid arms. Might I challenge you to
An arm wrestle.
an arm wrestling match?
Please describe.
You clutch one of my limbs. We put the middle joint on this stall table, and then we push against each other as hard as we can and see who can push who to the table. Whose arm to the table?
I am failing to see the purpose. The cocoon, who does not have a mouth, will just turn to kind of look at the father moth for a moment. It is because it's been so still that Ocean may have not realized it was a living thing, and then it just to the side a little.
I was wondering if we should bet. How much money do I have? I think I have like... What is SP?
Silver.
Oh.
You've got
It's
some
a
money.
silver, like... Yeah, a silver. Clink.
One skills gambled. 2 silver for the victor. Understanding. Yes. They will put a silver on the thing, and they will give you an arm wrestle, I guess.
Yay!
This is when you turns out that this guy has like a +2 strength or something. Where's my dice? I have muffins. I have chocolate.
You have muffins?
Oh no, I left them out too long. They are basically bricks at this point.
Oh.
Don't put your muffins on the floor, kids at home. They'll turn to bricks. It happened to me, it'll happen to you too. Roll a athletics check. This person is a spellcaster, not a...
saving throw.
No,
Athletics.
athletics check.
This
Okay.
one or the one on
Athletics.
so, yeah.
The skill one, yeah.
Come on!
That's way better. That's way better. You actually can quite easily defeat the small size moth creature in a strength check. It's not incredibly easy because you are weak, but it does have different
they're my
limbs.
Spider arms. They're not exactly like my buff arms.
But you will
Just gonna
win,
put
and
that
there will be
silver-
they will put that extra push the silver coins towards you. Be like, curious. Suffering in turn for gambling. I see no
don't
profit
get
within
gambling.
it.
Yes, gambling is a terrible, terrible thing. The sport, enjoyable. Don't gamble. Anyway, thank you for the money. Good game.
Well,
thank you for the information and the purchases.
Best of luck to you on this road. If you go further up, we saw 2 Ebimaru investigating near the lake.
They were much closer to Ebimaru than we would go.
I would quite like to keep my neurons inside my head.
Fair enough.
And you can keep on heading down the road. Heading on down the road with, some new purchases.
Don't tell him, but I nearly put my, one spider leg out. It's not supposed to apply pressure like this. We drum, we climb, we rap.
As Charles just holding up one of the stones with darkness in it, looking at it while Ashun is talking.
The baby's gonna be reach.
The baby thinks you bought it for him.
Let me put it in my mouth.
Just drool mouth.
Just got the foot in the mouth right now. The
But I could put something else in my mouth.
Both
Yes.
in mouth.
I see the world through my mouth.
Maybe I shouldn't call you the gift. Maybe I should call you the Great Eater.
That's a good god name.
Seems to make as much sense as anything.
Well, who named you? If you...
I did.
Well, I don't think you can talk about giving or taking names. What does a Shal even mean? Oshun? Well, we already talked about what Oshun means.
Ashal has a deep and powerful meaning in my tongue.
What does it mean?
I'm not telling you.
You can say it in your language, I won't even understand.
Ashal!
That's the same word!
Exactly! What did you expect?
It means... What does a Shal mean? It means...
A shawl. Done.
The impenetrable.
Means nerd.
Nerd.
Later on in that same day.
The voluptuous. Sorry, carry on.
Is that the motion for voluptuous? Is that the sign language for voluptuous? Oh, the sign language for voluptuous has got to be hilarious. Because you know how sign language doesn't give a fuck? And it just does the thing that is quickest to understand?
American Sign Language, super cool. Everything can be one hand. English Sign Language is rabbit.
Yeah.
Voluptuous is gonna be
Yeah. It's gonna be voluptuous. I can see it in my head.
Oh my god.
It's on that same day you're traveling nearish the road. You start to be able to sense 2 things. 1, the aether light stars above, even when there are no clouds, seem to be dimmer. They only ever cast a very dim light over the earth anyway, but it seems notably dark. The second thing you'd notice is further in the direction you're heading, you can start to see the silhouette of the city. It is within a very large crater that we have to start traveling down into. It even seems like there may be some buildings on the very edge, but mostly it's a crater, and then the city is kind of it almost from this distance looks like a cobbled together number of churches from afar, just based on the shape. You're seeing it from very far away, mostly just in almost a gloom that makes its silhouette travel further across the mists, like a vampire's castle. As you are perhaps looking at that, you will notice on the road ahead of you, not quite exactly on the road, is a creature. It's quite large. It's standing almost like a gorilla would on its very mighty forelimbs, which put it up to an almost... it's kind of craning its neck upwards, making it probably closer to 9 feet tall. Its skin... it almost looks like it doesn't have skin and you're just seeing the muscle, and the muscle is just dark, deep oil slick in tone, with just a kind of... the slight bluish light from the city behind is cascading across it like it would on oil or very glossy material, almost like a latex even. It has... where its head should be, and almost is a very large plate of stone. It's a very large, like, plate of stone that looks like it should have, like, a face or something on it, and it's craning that up into the air, but the image emblazoned on this stone, it almost looks like maybe, like, you know, one of those, like, Mayan calendar illustrations where, like, there's all these kind of shapes, but instead of a face, there's just a very large set of very beautifully carved lips. And the lower lip actually seems to be able to separate slightly, and it's almost like it's tasting the air, but there's nothing inside the mouth, it's just a stone mask. There is somewhat in a degree of hair on the thing. It kind of goes down the back of the head and kind of down the back of the neck on the back in like a kind of triangle shape. And across the skin, you can see, even from afar, these almost looks like lashes that have cut deep grooves in this creature's skin. The lashes have the same silver dark shimmer as the stones in Ashal's pocket, but with a very deep kind of purple innards. It doesn't look like it's necessary. It could be the blood of the creature, but it almost looks like something has cut into it and imposed itself onto it and kind of cast another shadow onto it. While it is very clearly a being of shadow, you don't need to do any kind of detect sense on it. Just the way it swallows up the light around it, the way it's like slightly jittering as it cranes its neck into the air, it's quite clear.
I think Oshun would like take hold of Ashal's like fabric at their shoulder and like pull them more to the side instead of walking towards this creature.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Ian knows what this is. Does Ashal know what this is?
You give me a it would probably be a religion roll. As you're pondering, you can actually see that there are a number of small raptors encroaching upon it. 3. Raptors are quite common in the Underrealm. And these have kind of like frills around their face that kind of they're like kind of like haunting around this thing as if to hunt it.
There's fucking dinosaurs in Jarviskjir.
We fought raptors before.
I must have blocked it out.
Or did we actually? We did.
You've encountered raptors in this campaign.
We certainly encountered them, yeah.
Yeah, it looks like they're trying to hunt the thing. It's clearly a creature of the Uhaga, Ashal. This is not something that has attunement to the shadow. This is something from that plane that has come through. At the looks of it, probably not consciously. It is acting a bit like an animal would, despite very humanoid traits as well. You don't know the exact thing, but you do know that creatures' souls that end up in the Shadow Realm do so because they are claimed by no other entity. When they end up there, what the soul becomes depends on almost who the person was and how strong of will they are, and most people just start to melt away into beings that can briefly walk the fell and then become nothing more than dregs, a soupy mass of souls on the floor that sometimes melt together. Some are much stronger than that and can keep together with will, and then there are also beings that live amongst the fell that are organic. This is a creature made up of a soul, that has turned to the fell. Probably not high in will, but probably very high in strength. Becoming bound into this form.
Do you think that our scent or whatever will be distracted by these creatures, these small creatures?
I would think it best to hide and watch. I would hazard a guess that the raptors will soon meet their demise. That is a creature of Uhaga. Perhaps not one of intellect, but one of strength at least.
Might we be able to send it back through the void?
Potentially, I would wonder at the purpose of doing so, though there are likely many more creatures like this in Rangarthurth. This is exactly what I was expecting. To be fair, it is better than what I was expecting. I was worried they would be twisted into aberrations by the song, by the psionic energy that was released. This is better than it could be.
Well, I'll take that, as you are such a pessimist, as a very good sign. Oshun's gonna stare real hard at this thing and try and gauge if she feels the connection to it.
Give me a wisdom check.
Yeah.
As you are doing that, the raptors start to close in. They are raptors. We've seen Jurassic World. They work in a unit. And they do.
Are they feathered?
These ones, actually not much, but a lot of the raptors are. These ones have more frills and, like, fins. The one goes and bites at the leg of the thing, and the legs are almost smaller in proportion to the body than the rest, and it kind of, like, staggers as the raptor bites it, and that snaps it out of whatever it was doing, and it lets out a sound.
What the heck?
And it will just throw its arm to the side, and the raptor just goes very far. And then it will dig its arms into the side, and it will let out a sound very similar to that again, that you two are far enough away from that you hear, but you can almost see, like, the voice permeated the air. This scream almost shakes the air, but not like a sound wave does, almost like it's shuffling the air around it. And the raptors they kind of collapse, but they're still alive and they're shaking. And it lets out more groans as it just kind of, it takes a step and its limb is very shaking. And that's when Oshun, even though you're kind of horrified by it, you feel it is an injured living being, even in this state.
That's my baby!
The way it, like, takes a step and it, like, hobbles, but then it will go and just crunch its hand onto one of the raptors, and you kind of see it, like, pop the thing with the weight of it. And it doesn't do this to eat because it doesn't need to, and it's letting out all these kind of groaning sounds as it's doing it, and it's not quiet. You can hear it from your little hiding spot. And it will then go and just throw its body into the last one. It kind of uses the very sharp corner of its mask to just crunch the thing. And the raptor has a very noticeable, like, dent right down to the stone below it in its kind of back. And that's when I'm going to need you two to make stealth checks.
What the fuck?
I really wish I'd done a Silent Shadow first, but oh well.
We intentionally moved, like, downwind of it.
It's convenient on the map I have. There is a little hidey zone.
Does that give us advantage?
No, it's just that you actually have a place to hide. You can't really do stealth without anywhere to hide.
Those are okay.
Average.
The creature does, I would say, quickly, but the way this thing moves quickly is almost rubbery. As it moves its head quickly, then the rest of the body is like... And it does face your direction, but there are no eyes. It will kind of almost... Whoa. And then it will turn away, and take a hobbled step. It puts its hand, which sounds very big, over the little place where it was bitten. But it almost seems to be rubbing. There's one of those lashes on it right there as well. It rubs that more. Like, that's hurting it more. And it will just take some very slow, hobbled steps, kind of vaguely towards the city, but almost more northern.
I have some bad news for you, Ashal.
I'm not sure what could be worse news than that thing, but go ahead.
My gift is extended to this being. I'm gonna try and touch it.
No. We're not going near that. At least not that one, not on this occasion.
If I could heal it.
It would sooner crush you than let you near it.
Even something of minimal intelligence won't bite a hand that repairs its wounds. We could ride it into battle.
You are assuming much. I will not. Listen,
Yes.
I will not forbid you from attempting communication with this. I probably speak a language it may understand. I speak the language of Uaga. But that is not a creature with intellect.
You can speak to it?
I can speak Umbral, which is the language of that plane. I do not know if that has the intellect. It might have the intellect to understand. I do not think it has the intellect to speak.
Well-
You attempting to hear it would be like attempting to... You imagine you come across, well, an injured raptor. One that can move, one that is backed into a corner, one that is defensive. Perhaps if you get to heal it, it might recognize that and might stop attacking you. But until you get up close and heal it, and even perhaps after that, it will be frantically trying to fend you off.
It's true. In every area of the world, there are creatures of... I hesitate to say good. There are creatures of friendly demeanor, and there are creatures of unfriendly demeanor. I'm here. Part of my purpose is healing. What if part of why I'm here, in a less cosmic sense perhaps, is to begin the domino effect of healing?
As I say, I will not forbid you from this action, but at the very least, wait to try it on anything. I would suggest two
Something
things.
small.
Something smaller, and secondly, wait until Drea gets here. If you go up to that and get knocked out in one hit, I have to face that alone. At best, that results in us both dead.
And you're very weak, very
And
skinny.
it would not. We spoke before of being careful about this and making sure that I do not expose myself to things. You exposing yourself to that in an attempt to heal it before Drea gets here is not a smart action.
Your bird bones would be like that raptor.
Yes, in a best case scenario.
You're right. My instinct, perhaps in part, is a need for me to soothe something within myself. The gift is this two-way street. It extends, but it also goes within me. So my discomfort at seeing creatures in pain is partially me trying to soothe their pain within myself. I am uncomfortable seeing that creature in pain. And putting my needs before the three of us is a mistake. And I won't be ruled by it.
Yes. I would add the complication. Unless I am mistaken, you feel some sense of responsibility towards ensuring that creatures that are dead remain so. Yes?
I was going to say a maternal responsibility, but then I remembered who I was talking to. Yes, responsibility. And for things to die, it's hard to say. You cannot say for things to die when they are supposed to die. But in a natural sense.
I appreciate the issue is complicated.
Yes.
What I would say, that is a being that was once something else on this mortal plane. That might have been an usurper elf, it might have been a dwarf, it might have been something from the surface that died and left and wound and fell to Haga. In a sense, that creature is already dead, or has died once. Just been reformed into something else. The soul of whatever it was reformed. I do not say that to dissuade you from attempting to heal it. I merely say that so that you have all the information that you might need. I do not know how you would quantify that.
I appreciate you expounding on the topic because I don't know what that creature is. I can only sense that it is alive and it feels. When you say descend to Haga, is that after mortal death?
Yes.
And then they
yes.
appear on the plane.
Yes.
And the plane affects them. We'd have to go to find out.
I believe so. It is the fact that it is their soul upon the death of their mortal flesh, their soul is warped by the plane, I believe.
So it could be immensely uncomfortable for a deceased soul's soul to be back in this plane.
I have little doubt that is a creature that is in pain, whether its pain began when it fell to Ohaga or when it passed back into this realm, it would be in pain.
Well, what are the contingencies to be sent to Ohaga if going there causes you discomfort? Are we all destined to go to Ohaga?
Ohaga is the destination of unclaimed souls.
Nobody bid on them.
In a sense.
eBay.
In a sense, you are correct. No gods, no being of other planes claimed their soul upon death.
No claimed. That is wild, my dude. That is mad. You are going to Ohaga?
Most likely, although the amount of different magics I have in my body might lead me to be claimed by some entity beyond my understanding.
No, this is actually mad. So all of the deities and the people who serve them, they are right to force conversion on people because they are literally saving their souls.
I think you are misunderstanding something. Being a follower of a divinity or other being does not guarantee they will claim your soul. Yours, I would imagine, would be claimed by Everith the second that you die, as are probably most of your sister Driders. an ordinary person worshipping Ivrith or at least who believes in Ivrith, maybe does not worship, who is of no consequence, there is no guarantee that Ivrith will claim their soul.
I'm gonna
It
look
is
at
more
the baby.
complicated than that.
I'm looking at the baby. Stare at the baby.
Blah.
Oh, okay, good.
In a similar way, I may, because I have no connection to any divinity, I may find myself in Uhaga upon death. On the other hand, the demonic essence that still dwells in my arm might lead me to be claimed by something from one of the fiendish plane, one of the infernal planes.
I've heard it's not that bad a place to go. You know, you might like it. You look like someone who would enjoy paperwork.
Well,
Whatever. The other thing is that something might decide to claim me because of my natural magic. I do not know enough about it to say for certain.
Let me point out a way where you might understand my point of view a bit more clearly. Look at that creature. That is you.
it looks like the shield head. If it had eyes, it would be looking your direction. But it's like 100 feet away, and it's not moving. It's just doing... But it's not craning its neck in the air, but it is kind of like... It's got its front... its arms out and it's leaning on them, but one is almost like... You know when you hold something up for too long and your arm starts to shake? So it's moving slightly, and it's like facing you, but it's not looking at you because it has no eyes.
Ocean's gonna be more quiet. Ocean's not gonna yell so much anymore.
That would be pretty funny, actually, if she's trying to get you to empathize with this creature and you're like, wait a minute!
I suggest we move away quietly. I believe this thing might be a sentry.
Say no more. Shuffle off.
Go
It's mortal coil!
opposite direction of the direction the shield head is, and you know. Do you want to keep on going towards the city, or find a place to sit and talk for a bit?
I think we find a place to sit and talk. Hopefully somewhere that is not like out in the open too much.
I feel like Ashal would be bringing Oshun over to like sit down, and Oshun's just be like, we aren't going to try and find another way in?
In time, but you were making a point before I felt that it was a sentry.
Oh no, I was just saying that if you can see yourself clearly in another being, there's this strong echo within your own self. How can I alleviate that thing's suffering? How can I create happiness, lasting happiness within that being, and somehow find it within myself through that work? Essentially, that is what it feels like, except if you had created all of these creatures in the not natural, obviously, but in the reproductive sense of other beings than yourself.
That is something that I find difficult to understand. You also have no opportunity to alleviate their suffering if you act recklessly and are crushed by the very creature you are trying to save.
It is true.
There is no point trying to examine one of the giant beetles, by crawling under it and checking the wound if that beetle sits on you. I am not suggesting that you do not empathize with these creatures. I am merely suggesting that acting to alleviate every individual piece of suffering might not bring succor to the most individuals. There might be a way, if we find our way to Rangarthur, of weakening, closing the manifestation zone, which might prevent further suffering of creatures coming through. It might immediately banish some of these creatures. You might have spells of banishment yourself that Ivrith could pass on to you, that would send it back to where it's meant to be. Hint, hint, as a 4th level spell, you got banishment. It is... Things are often more complicated than simply... Although I feel your desire to help those immediately in front of you is admirable, it is often... You miss the... What is the phrase? You miss the forest for the trees.
You make an excellent point, and not all beings have to feel empathy, or much less what I feel, the extreme end of empathy. There are beings that have to be empathy-less, those who have to make these grand-scale decisions that cannot be bogged down with the fear of each individual that might be affected. A healer, for example, may lose people every day, and therefore benefit from not feeling empathy for the families and the people who are left behind. But what we're talking about is we're talking about the beetle problem. There are 5 beings on one road and 1 on another. Does the beetle run over the right or the left side? Yes, saving one's strength for the big acts of healing is important to do and must be done regularly. However, the small acts of kindness have effects long reaching outside of our ability to see. You might remove the thorn from one Gronliak, and that person goes on with goodwill to the next person, and the next, and the next. What I'm saying is that you are completely right. A grand scale action might heal all the rifts in Rangarthur, but healing the individuals might close those rifts in themselves.
I do not disagree, but to extend your analogy, choosing between the one person or the 5 that the beetle is careening towards is one thing. Standing in front of the beetle in an attempt to stop it when it will quite easily crush you as well is plain foolishness.
Not if I have a treat for the beetle. See, this is why I like you, Ashal. I believe we balance each other out, and we can do good things because we have our opposite points of view. High five.
There is a
It's
little
a very
bit
limp high five.
of motion that attracts your eyes, not from the direction Shieldhead was, but for the direction towards Rangathuth, where you can just see a plane of stone before it reaches that crater. A shambling humanoid shape, more 5 foot or so, walking unsteadily towards you. It's a long ways away. It's actually very easy to see a long distance away at this, just due to the way the darkness has almost settled and permeates and impregnates everything.
Fabulous?
Unlikely. That is likely a lesser version of the being that we saw.
Don't spoil it. Just because you know all of the creatures in Jarviskjir
Well, I'm
doesn't
assuming.
mean that Ollie's
I'm
introduced it
assuming.
yet.
I'm assuming
As
that
Ashal
Ashal
can
knows
make that assumption as well.
Oh, all right.
Ashal has 18 intelligence. That's far more intelligent than I am.
I don't know. It's a ways away, but it's actually it's not moving quickly. The more you kind of glance at it, the more you realize that it is tumbling into a run. Actually, Tumulus is a really good comparison because when Tumulus started getting up to speed, he could not stop, or he had to put all of his momentum into it. This entity is now running at you, leaning very far forward, and the closer it gets, the more you see a glint of blue amongst it. Very brightly.
Man, I didn't sign up for World War Z. I'm out of here.
You're traveling towards the city of dead. Just saying. you explicitly signed up for World War Z, mate.
Oh, no, you're right.
But there's just one! There's just one running creature heading towards you, seemingly quite deliberately towards you two, like sitting down.
If you wish to
I
test
don't
your
like
theory,
running.
this is likely an excellent opportunity. We'll probably not get another one on its own soon.
Does it look like Drea?
No, it's a...
Too far away to tell unless you want to give perception checks.
Cast Spirit Guardians. Or do I have to wait until initiative?
You can pre-cast it, but Spirit Guardians has a 15-foot range around you, and this thing is far away. Ashal, it almost looks like a newborn Ebamari running before it knows how to fly. In the way it's moving.
That's just
That's even
rude.
worse.
As it gets closer, you see before you is not a living Ebamari, but a skeleton. You mentioned earlier before Ashal's avian hollow bones, and its thin hollow bones are just keeping it together. You've seen undead, you've seen skeletons. You can cast that, and then we can roll initiative. So go ahead and click that already and do the while I'm describing. But seeing an Ebamari skeleton, you know, seeing inside an Ebamari, its skeleton has no lower jaw, and really not even a jaw. There's just kind of a hole, and the head is elongated, and the skull is so thin, it's almost translucent. This blue glow is coming out of it. It's coming out of the eyes, it's coming out where the mouth would be. Almost looks like the glow itself is becoming the tendrils and tentacles that would have been in its mouth. And like I said, it's running. Not with supernatural speed, just with hungry speed.
Oh shit.
Is that your attack roll for Rave Enfeeblement?
Yes.
It would hit.
Yay!
So now it's only doing half damage if it's using strength at all.
Oshun's gonna scoot the babe, just like shimmy the thing till it's on her back.
Give me initiative rolls.
Where's my token? There it is.
Oh, that's very dramatic.
Boop.
Well, you've already got one.
You've already done a spell. So, Ashal, you get to act first. The Ray of Enfeeblement does strike the thing. It doesn't really seem to be slowing it or, like, making it drag its arms behind it or anything like that.
Okay. I am going to cast Bane. on it.
Bane.
Ah.
Cast Bane.
Okay.
And yeah, that ends my turn.
Charisma saving throw. It will fail, so it is baned. Then the thing runs up to you, and while it's running, you see the ethereal tentacles coming out of the hole in its skull, just kind of almost flexing within your direction. And Oshun, I'm going to need you to give me a intelligence saving throw.
Please don't be a stupid bitch.
I was just
Please
like,
don't
of
be a
course, the
stupid bitch.
intelligence saving throw on the one who's less intelligent.
Ah!
You are going to get mind spiked by this creature. You have seen a shark cast mental spells on all sorts of beings, but you've never been afflicted by one yourself, and you suddenly gain a whole new understanding as the consciousness of this entity is thrust within your mind. You have a little bit of understanding of telepathy, but not enough to steel your mind against it, and what you feel is just...
It's that episode of Evangelion.
You just feel raw psionic energy coming off of it. It's like it's thrusting. The mind of this thing is just entropy, psionic entropy. It will deal 16 psychic damage to you, and it keeps on running, which means it's now 30 feet away from you, pair. And then it's your turn next, Ocean.
I was wondering if I could cast Revivify.
Revivify only... Revivify, first of all, has a material component that must be spent to cast it, which I do not know if you have. Secondly, it only really works in the, 5 minutes after an entity has died to bring their soul back to their body. Remember I said last time that there is a mechanical mechanics to how the soul leaves the body? There is a 5-minute window where it can be pulled back. This is a skeleton.
That's cool.
Also, Revivify is touch, so you'd have to go up and smack it. Which you can do, it is 30 feet away, it's within your move speed, but do you want to?
I'm going to just go for a good old Toll the Dead.
Sure.
I mean, this thing it's not necromantic. So, something that's psionic, would radiant damage do anything?
Well, I mean,
You don't know?
vulnerabilities and resistances are fairly uncommon, and I mean, resistance is a bit less so. You might as well try it. It's your best. Your best.
I'm gonna go for Toll the Dead first.
It needs to make a, what is it, wisdom save or is it charisma?
Wisdom with a minus D4.
It fails. It has a minus D4 from Bane, so it double fails. But it has not taken damage yet, so it only takes the smaller of those two amounts, which is enough of it. It's running, arms in front, and it does kind of... There's that bell, and you see the bones amongst it crumble, because the bones are very physical. But it's still moving. Michelle.
It's just mind spiked my companion. That's mental spirit in return. With a minus D4 again.
Oh, the minus D4 is going to be the hard... Yeah, the minus D4 is it falling. The Bane kind of making whatever is in its mind almost the leftover clockwork mechanics of an Ebamari mind break. And you see the glow inside its head. It's close enough now. You can see it's almost like the shadow of its brain. You can see the lobes. You can see the curling matter. You can see the 3 lobes of an Ebamari brain. And you see as you thrust your psionic energy into it, it just bursts. And the skeleton will just fall apart onto the ground. Not even like it's as a skeleton. It just falls apart as bones. And that blue glowing energy just gone. So it is.
Ocean's still going to be in. Is she still in pain, or is the pain over?
The pain. You have a migraine.
I hate
They're like, you have taken, what is it, 16 psychic damage. You are hurt.
Yeah.
There wasn't a connection, which is almost why it hurts more. With a Charles, you can kind of hold, like, there's a handshake almost. This was a smack. The hand just smacked into your head with all of its energy, really quite
She's gonna
roughly.
cover all of her eyes and just say, "Is it already? It's already dead."
I think it was already dead in some sense. I am surprised it fell so easily, but I am not disappointed. You just took psychic damage. Here, allow me. And Ashal would cure wounds specifically around, like...
you have cure wound.
Yeah.
Because the shells are good at the
A Charles is a box of tricks.
Yeah. And we'll just try and relieve the migraine a bit.
If only you could do that IRL.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need to take a level in whatever the fuck your cure wounds comes from at this point. I've lost track.
It's blood mage. It's running off blood mage, but from the witch that we killed in the Fanged Asylum.
It's a witch. You need to become a witch, Ian. Which I think if you could, you would, based on like you've played like 3 witches. So
Is that temporary hit points?
no, that's healing. So that would definitely take the sting off. It would be like, taking something for your migraine. It would still be there. You feel weakened, but
Just need a really long face mask. Just cover all of the eyes.
3
I'm
separate.
concerned that thing could clearly detect probably me, if we're honest.
The creature with the slab for a face was always turned towards us. That thing ran right at us. We are giving off something as living beings that they can see.
It's not impossible. I think we should...
Cover ourselves in the gore of the dead.
I was thinking back far away from the city and at least until the morrow and start then with our investigations.
Do they sleep?
Be very cautious while we await Drea. Do they sleep? Probably not. We should be vigilant on watches.
All right.
It depends. There might be some things from Uhaga, the beings of organic nature, that might have some form of sleep.
What about the things that you bought? Could we consume some? Put some on us?
I will spend some time examining them. They are probably little more than trinkets. I doubt they will aid us much. I bought them out of curiosity. But it is not the worst idea. It is possible that imbibing one might reduce our life signal, for lack of a better term.
Temporarily.
Yes, perhaps. But I would need to do some investigation on them first.
Can you masticate
These are rocks, by the way. These are rocks.
the rations?
The rations are...
Rations and the rocks.
The rations are rations. The rocks are rocks. The rocks are the ones with shadow in them.
Okay.
So, I don't think you want to masticate the rocks. You can eat them. I won't stop you guys eating them if you want. Around
That's the end of the campaign.
8 hours later, you'll be doing a hell of a constitution check. But you can. It's not a bad idea.
Ashal wants to investigate them first.
Maybe the baby was right all along.
Ian. If you dare Ian, sometimes you don't even have to dare Ian.
You had a genuinely decent idea, my love.
No, I mean in real life.
Oh, yes.
If you just hold mustard around Ian, Ian will say, "You can dare me to eat that," and I will.
I don't invite you to dare me.
I have never encountered this. I have never encountered
Sometimes
this.
it's like you're just like waiting to gross people out with how much you can consume.
I mean, if you got it, flaunt it. That's what I always say. But what you guys have got is the end of a session, because this is a great place to end off with you knowing a little bit more about what actually is within beyond.
Okay.
Exactly what I expected to be within
Yes,
so far.
but Ocean
more or less.
has no clue. So, yes, very much. And maybe next week you may even have someone to help you before you go into the dark. But we will see. We will see.
We will see.
Before that, why don't you talk real quickly about what you've got going on, Ian?
Okay. In addition to this, I am in multiple other Ollie DM'd games, both that are on Ollie's
I was going to say,
Patreon
they're not
for
all
$5.
Jarviskjir, are they?
Yes.
Unless there's a very tenuous link.
Owen is one of the
Outer planes?
Titan's feet.
Oh.
It's one of the Titan's feet. What did I do? Yeah, subscribe to Ollie's Patreon for $5 a month to get access to those. There is a Tuesday bi-weekly Totally Not Pokemon game, which I'm determined one day to get a Whalmer in. And I will keep harassing Ollie, and eventually I might get a Whalmer.
I'm catching up on last week.
You can't give the people what they want.
Cute.
In addition to that, there is a Monday game we have just started this week.
It has just started.
It is, as of yet, untitled Thieves Guild game. If you are interested in Uhaga, the fell shadow plane that we are sort of exploring here, there will probably also be some of it in the Monday game, because my character is kind of the same sort of thing as that shield head in a sense. It's a bit. It'll probably be explained more in that campaign.
Wibbly
what
wobbly,
exactly-
darky walky, but yes.
Yes.
I remember you describing it as melting.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's visceral.
Very
a visceral image.
But yes, check out that game for a bit more of a. I suppose it's still a fairly traditional D&D experience.
It's a traditional D&D experience, but the Thieves Guild game it's a thieves game. I'm giving them heists, and I am not giving them. I'm giving them thing to steal, and place to steal from, and then they gotta use their own wits to scheme and plan.
The best bit about this, we have 7 party members, none of which are rogues, and
No.
none of which are actual thieves.
None are actually really thieves. So that is something. Very interesting group of people. That first session is basically just people getting to know each other, and is a whole lot of fun. So check that out, $5 a month on Patreon. Zoe.
As I said in the game, I am the head writer of Schism, Immolation of Oathfur, and it's currently on Kickstarter right now for the next 10 days.
It's 10 or 11 days. It's not long.
So exciting. Such a good game. We've played it. It's gorgeous. I love it. I love the characters. And there's so much more to write, so much more to see come into the physical world. And yeah.
That's if
Tell
we get
them.
funded. So otherwise, Zoe's out of a job. So get it funded.
Now I'll still write things for Jarviskjir.
Yeah, I just won't pay you for it. Yeah, as Zoe said, this is in its nearly last week, just like a week and a bit. So if you want this game to exist, and those who've pledged already, if you want your copy, you won't get it unless it gets funded. So share with people who are like, oh, that's interesting. Go, this game won't exist unless you pledge. Like we're kind of at that point where we still got a long way to go. So if you want to see this game exist, you're gonna put some feelers out, and hopefully we're gonna have a last week rush of a lot of people who were kind of like, okay, right? That's the step we're in. So definitely help convince your friends, convince your grandma, convince your people, and
Ooh, Christmas. Hopefully.
it probably won't be out. Like you can give them an IOU Christmas present. The boxes probably won't be delivered by Christmas, but it would be great for anyone who likes D&D, who likes tabletop games, who likes war games, who likes well-made boxes. Some people are really into that.
Cool characters.
Yeah, but like the
Really
box,
cool.
it's really well made.
Like a game, a board that I've never seen before. It's awesome.
It's a good game, and I really hope we get to share it.
It has like tons of board games. Never seen anything like this.
So there's that bit. On the other stuff, there is another show on Saturdays at 8 p.m. GMT. And other than that, there are the occasional chill streams at kind of 8 or 9 p.m.-ish. Other than that, that's kind of what we got going on. Follow us on Twitter and on Discord if you are new. And that's really it. We should be back next week. Like I said, we should have a guest. Maybe. And we'll see you then. Thanks for enjoying it. The show is supported by Patreon, and now we're gonna go thank the patrons. So, see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.